What's up, guys? It's Joe back again talking about Kansas State and the transfer portal. And today I've got an interesting theory I want to talk you guys into, as I have talked myself into it over the last, 8 hours consistently, and now it's burned into my brain. That's all I can think about. I've got an idea here. We've got something to talk about in today's video, and I know that it's been kind of a slow week outside of K-State getting repeatedly kicked in bad spots, so to speak, in the portal. We might have some good news today, and I just want to put it out there. I don't want to say that it's going to happen for sure. But let me take you on a journey, including a couple of different names we've talked about in the last couple of weeks. Now, I want to say, there's one guy to thank for this theory, and I can't take any credit for it outside of him. This dude is the real deal. Trilly Donovan, he's like the portal whisperer. He's like the Caesar Milan of the transfer portal. This dude knows everything. He's plugged in with every team. He's got some real buzz and some really good assets to talk about. He put out a tweet here. I'll put it somewhere on the screen. It's a gif of someone saying it's all connected, basically. I'm sure you can see it somewhere. And it's talking about three different players. North Dakota State forward Grant Nelson, Creighton forward Arthur Kaluma, and a guy we talked about in the last video here, Tennessee's Olivier Nkamhoua. Now, he says the three recruitment processes are all connected, or maybe it's just a what if they're connected. Let me give you the connection. Let me give you my idea. This is my triangle theory here. And, I shouldn't say my triangle theory. This is what I have come up with, essentially. Start with Olivier Nkamhoua. Goes to Manhattan, takes a tour, visits, doesn't end up going to Manhattan, and basically from today's reports, he's out on K-State. He's only in on West Virginia and I think Baylor, so two other Big 12 schools. I'm not going to chalk that up to too much immediately, but stay with me here. The next player in this cycle, Arthur Kaluma. Arthur Kaluma has four different schools interested in him. He's toured a place like Kentucky, and he basically didn't like it or whatever happened. He didn't go to Kentucky, basically. The names that I'm seeing are associated with him, K-State, Alabama, Texas Tech, and I think there's a fourth one, but I forget off the top of my head. Not important for the story. The main ones to focus on, K-State, Alabama. Jump forward, Grant Nelson. Just set up a tour with Alabama. He's a massive name in the portal. Basically, every team wants him, and if they don't have him, they're going to be bummed out. That's how it goes. This is the biggest player left in the portal. NBA prospect, NBA dude. He's a unicorn of a player, 6'10", but has handles like a guard. He's the dude everyone wants. He goes and tours Alabama. I think that's his first option. And there's another tweet from Trilly Donovan, shout out Trilly again, saying that Alabama's all the way in on Grant Nelson. That's the gist. That's where they're putting all their eggs in that basket, and we'll see what happens from there. If Nelson goes to Alabama, I think this is why it's connected. I think Arthur Kaluma, his first pick is Alabama. He wants to be with Alabama. However, there's reports saying that he might set up visits. K-State was included in that list. Texas Tech was included in that list. Two Big 12 schools right there. I think Kaluma's first pick is Alabama. I really do. But as a young guy, he's a sophomore, he's a big-name player. He was also involved in the NBA draft process, and I'll talk about him specifically a little bit later on. He wants to go to Alabama in my mind. If Grant Nelson goes there, I don't think he goes there. You don't want to just transfer somewhere and wait a year, or transfer somewhere and not be the guy. Part of me thinks that the reason he's waiting and announcing these other spots are backup plans. Hate to say it, I think K-State is a backup plan at this point. I could be wrong. This whole theory could be wrong. If Grant Nelson goes to Alabama, I think that's where a player like Arthur Kaluma could come to K-State and say, this is where I want to be. So question, why do we think the door shuts so quickly on Olivier Nkamhoua? Maybe there was some behind-the-scenes talk of, hey, if I go here, I want to be the dude. I want to be the guy. Please don't be interested in any other forwards. I don't know if you could say that as a player and get away with it. I don't know if that's the guy you'd want. But just in theory, say, you know what? If I'm coming here, I would like to be the guy. This is my time. I've earned it, blah, 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 whatever. And don't, I'm just putting words out there. I'm not saying this is what he said by any means, so take this with a grain of salt. What if he hears back from Tang and says, you know what? We're going to try to get better no matter what position it is. Because that sounds like a Tang answer is, we're going to take the best player available. If we can get a good player here, we're going to go for him. With that information, Nkamhoua would then immediately say, you know what? Forget these guys. That's not what I want to do. Baylor, I know West Virginia's recruited everybody and landed just about everybody. But what if he goes to Baylor, who is really desperate for players right now? We don't know if Jalen Bridges is coming back. Adam Flagler, I think, is going to the NBA draft. There's a bunch of dudes that are bouncing around. I could be wrong about that. Don't quote me on that, but they've lost a lot of dudes. LJ Cryer's gone. He's going to Houston. Keontae George in the NBA draft. They've lost a lot of key players. I think Nkamhoua goes and says, you know what? I want to be the guy. Baylor says, you can be the dude. It's all you, man. Here's the keys. Be that guy. I think that's a real possibility. K-State might not have given him that opportunity. I think this theory could work out to the point where we see the Creighton forward, Arthur Kaluma, end up in Manhattan. And it's no guarantee. I'm not saying that they're boxing out Texas Tech either. I think they equally have a good enough shot with Kaluma. But we're going to have to see what happens with Grant Nelson. I think Nelson is the first dude. When that domino falls, we should see a lot more news break for K-State. Worst case scenario, I would say this. There's still a real opportunity that K-State doesn't land any of these three players. I'm going to tell you right now, we're not getting Grant Nelson. If that's what people are hearing, if that's what truly Donovan's referring to, I will shave my head. Maybe not all of it, but I'll at least go to like a 1 all around. That would blow my mind. That's not going to happen. But it could, I suppose. Grant Nelson goes to Alabama. I think we could then see Kaluma say, you know what, let me evaluate K-State, let me evaluate Texas Tech, do some tours, blah, 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 go from there. That's where Jerome Tang has a chance to land an absolute dude in Arthur Kaluma, for sure. Olivier Nkamhoua. Maybe he got the information saying, you know what, we're still recruiting guys, we're not just going to stop and just stick with it. Goes somewhere else, goes Baylor, wherever. And I heard that Baylor was also interested in Grant Nelson, so that might be a small sliver of a thread. I'm not really here to jump in that. But I do think there's a possibility that K-State doesn't land these guys. Because if Grant Nelson goes anywhere but Alabama, I think immediately Kaluma goes to Alabama. I do. For some reason, something about it is telling me that's where we're at with the situation. I could be wrong, could be going the complete opposite way. Maybe Grant Nelson is secretly interested in K-State. I don't think that's the reality. But let me gas you up a little bit on Arthur Kaluma. This dude can play. I've said it about everybody we've talked about. However, NBA prospect as a sophomore. Guy is ready for the league. He goes to the NBA draft, ends up pulling out late and says, you know what, I'm going to go back to college, use another year. He's only a sophomore. He's only used 2 years of eligibility. He'd go to K-State as a junior with time and eligibility remaining. Let me talk you through some stats here. He's 6'7". He's an athletic freak. The dude can throw down a lob from 15 feet up in the air. Something about him just screams athleticism. The guy can play. Kaluma averaged 11.8 points per game last year and 6 rebounds, which is similar. I mean, I wanted to say similar to Keontae Johnson. Not immediately similar to Keontae Johnson, but I think he could put up those type of numbers. He's a great shooter from the floor. Maybe he needs to work on his 3-ball, but it feels like he's still hitting shots from outside for sure. I think he can immediately come in and help Tang. This would be a massive name in the portal to pair along with Tyler Perry, Naquan Tomlin, guys like that. I think that it's a real possibility that Kaluma wants to be the dude with the team, and K-State still gives him that opportunity. Nobody here is going to say that he's going to play over Naquan Tomlin. However, 6'7" is a spot you can put into that 3-guard spot and be a third ball handler type guy. Naquan Tomlin has earned his spot at the 4. We'll see who's in the 5. My guess is Jarrell Colbert, but we'll see if it's David Gasson. He's kind of still more of a 4. Kaluma could slide into that 3rd spot and be an absolute mismatch for everybody. So think about this. Run with me here. I know I've talked about this. I've hyped it up a lot. He would be the perfect player in Manhattan. Think about this starting 5 here. Tyler Perry, point guard. Cam Carter, 2-guard. Whichever player you want to toss in there. You know, it could be Dorian Finister. But for the sake of it, let's go ahead and go with Cam Carter. 3, Arthur Kaluma. 4, Naquan Tomlin. 5, Jarrell Colbert. And if you didn't watch the Jarrell Colbert video, I'll link it somewhere here. That dude's going to be a monster next season. Think about that starting 5. I know everybody here is thinking and saying, you know what? The portal has stunk. I mean, it's been tough for K-State, especially after all that momentum coming off the Elite 8. If you land Kaluma, everything changes. It does immediately. The roster, the lineup, the outlook for the team. Think about the guys coming in. Let me say this. I think our freshmen are going to be great too. I am so excited to watch Michaela Bridge. He might be the player that I want to watch more than anybody on this team when the basketball season starts up. I really think so. That dude has every bit of potential. However, a starting 5 of Tyler Perry, Cam Carter, Arthur Kaluma, Naquan Tomlin, Jarrell Colbert at the 5, that's incredible. And then you bring in guys off the bench like, you immediately bring in Dorian Finister. You bring in a guy like Taj Manning. All 3 of those freshmen can step in and immediately play. David Gasson had great minutes last year. This could be the guy, and I'm stoked to see what happens. I don't know when it's going to happen, but everybody pay attention once Grant Nelson announces where he's heading. That's my thoughts on the theory. I could be wrong. I could be crazy, and this could be so far off, and it could just not even have anything to do with us. But truly, Donovan doesn't really just say things to say things. If he says something or tweets something out, there's a purpose. There are conversations being had, for one way or another, that do involve these 3 players and K-State. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and let me say, if you're going to be there on Friday night, there's a K-State meetup at Maloney's, I think at 4:30, it's in the Kansas City area. I'm going to be there with a buddy. If you're there and you want to come up and say hi, just come and say what's up. I would love to meet anybody. I'm definitely going to be there. Probably closer to 4:35 right when it starts up. But either way, come and see me if you're going. I'd love to meet you guys for sure, face to face. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I really appreciate the support. I hope you have an absolute wonderful day, and I hope to see you Friday. Take care, and go Cats.